Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Winning at Being You podcast. I'm your host, Coach Mills Rogers. This is a space where we have real conversations with people who are using their voice, their experiences, and their purpose to create impact, not just for themselves, but for others. Today, I am super excited to be joined by Dr. Limitless Williams. We're going to talk about leadership, transformation, and what it actually looks like to win at being who you are without pretending or performing. If you're watching live, feel free to drop where you're watching from in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Now let's get into it. Today's guest is somebody whose life and work truly live up to his name. Dr. Limitless Williams is an associate professor, speaker, author, leadership coach, professional actor, former professional arena football player, U.S. Air Force veteran, and OCB professional natural bodybuilder. And yes, Limitless is not just a brand name. He legally changed his name to reflect the life, mindset, and mission he now walks in. And I have to say this up front. Dr. Limitless is joining me just one day after having hip replacement surgery. So when we talk about resilience, discipline, mindset, and living beyond limitations, this is not just a theory. This is real life. His journey is powerful. He went from facing hardship, living on the streets as a teenager, and having to overcome some very real obstacles, to earning 6 degrees, including 2 doctorates, becoming an award-winning author, speaking on stages around the world, and helping leaders turn conflict into a superpower. He has worked with leaders internationally, spoken at over 100 events, delivered a TEDx talk, written multiple books, and dedicated his life to helping people unmask their greatness and discover what is possible when they stop allowing their past to define their future. So today, we're going to talk about identity, transformation, discipline, leadership, and emotional intelligence, what it really means to live a limitless life. Dr. Limitless Williams, welcome to the Winning at Being You podcast.
Hey, thank you, man. I'm grateful to be here. So, hey, I'm excited about this, man. I've been following you, and I'm just excited to be a part of your program, man.
Man, and again, I salute you for coming on today. You definitely you're living up to your name by coming on the day after surgery. So that's impressive.
I appreciate it. I'm just trying to do God's will. You know how it is.
Yes, sir. And so your legal name is Dr. Limitless Williams. I got to start there, man. What made you decide that Limitless was not just going to be your mindset, but your actual name?
Growing up, my father, when I used to get in trouble, he would make me read Bible scriptures. And I fell in love with the bad characters or actors in the Bible, man. And it was something about Saul. He was so bad he had to change his name, and I was like, God, that's deep, and it made me just really think. So there's 2 things that really stood out. I did a TEDx talk called "Check Your Life, Be Limitless." What if we live a life without social constructs? And I keep thinking about how God said, "Be in this world, not of this world." But when you're of this world, you buy into those constructs, black, white, this, that, and it limits you. It limits your thinking. It allows you to operate within these parameters. And I just don't believe in it. It just doesn't make sense. Every time I look at my watch, I'm like, this is black. This is not. So why do we get caught up with these colors? Then when you start looking at in our society, one is supposed to be superior, one is supposed to be inferior. And I'm like, I'm not inferior to nobody, right? So that was a seed there. But then as I'm reading the story of Saul, it was like he thought he was on the right path. He thought he was doing God's work, and then he was blinded. And I think about my life. I really thought I was on the right path, and God is like, you still ain't quite there yet. Yeah, you're doing a lot of good things, but it's still some things I need to change in your life. You could be a better husband. You could be a better father. You could be a better professor. And I was like, what do I need to do? And I kept trying to do all of these things. And it was like, I was like, you know what, man, I can't do it. I don't get it. So I just surrendered. And it was like, as soon as I surrendered, everything came clear to me. And it was like, you got to become limitless. If you're going to lead these people to be limitless, it's not just your fancy words. You got to be willing to show it in your actions. So once I adopted that name, I was like, yo, I'm going to really start walking out with this crazy faith. So once I changed my name, man, then I got to the point where I decided to retire early and just really just live a life where I'm stepping out on faith, just having no limitations and just truly allowing this limitless spirit to lead and guide in everything I do. So that's what made me do it. I said, I want to really walk in everything of it. So I decided to change the name. So I'm limitless. And they say, God said, I am the great I am. I am limitless.
So, man, it's one thing to say, okay, what, I'm adopting a mindset. But you took it to a whole nother level with changing your name, man, to say, I'm changing my name legally to the mindset that I want to embody. And so, I don't know, man, that just really just blows my mind, man.
You think about how, I think about when I play sports and they say you got to speak it into existence. You got to see it in your mind. And I just realized when I say the name, I would say the name James. I'm like, I didn't choose that name. It's no knock against my mom, but I didn't choose that. And I like what the name stands for, is the supplanter. But I'm like, nah, man, I'm more than that. And I felt like ever since I was a child, God created me for so much more. So what really resonated me was limitless. And that is the name that I'm like, that's who I am. That's what I'm going to be. So I had to change it, man. I had to change up the game,
Man, okay. Makes sense. So my next question, you're joining me one day after hip replacement surgery.
Yeah.
And so you already knew this when we scheduled this. And so what made you like want to still do this one day after? Because most people would be like, man, you need to be getting your rest, and there'd be a whole bunch of legitimate excuses.
I just feel like, look, whatever God give you, it may be hard. Like, am I still in a little bit of pain? Yeah, I'm in a little bit of pain. I got a little bit of drugs in me too. But it's like, if God presented this way, why are you running from it? It got to be a reason with it, right? Like, my life is not my life. My life is meant to inspire other people to not make excuses. And if I'm not going to make excuses, I need to be a true example of that. So to me, this is more important. If we set this date, you fulfill your obligations. Unless I can't breathe, I was going to be here on this podcast. It's not like I got to stand up or run or anything like that. I get paid to open my mouth, man. And when I speak, I just want God to come out of me, man. So I felt like I had to be here. I didn't want to try to circumvent it and set it up for another day, because realistically, how do I even know I have another day? You don't know. So if God give me the ability to be here today, I'm going to make it happen. So I wasn't going to change this for nothing in the world.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming on. And again, it just confirms that you are limitless, because, again, so many people, the overwhelming majority, would have been like, nah, I'm not going to fool with it. I just had surgery. And so, again, that it's just very impressive. And, I run across a lot of people, and to see people, or see somebody like yourself that, it's not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. And, you mentioned something about excuses, and oftentimes, people will demand a lot from other people, but they will make excuses for themselves. And so, again, I really, really appreciate the fact that you are embodying being limitless and not saying, well, hey, I have the excuse, I can't do it or whatever.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it.
So, you have a pretty complex story. We mentioned that you experienced hardships growing up. You served in the military. You're pretty accomplished in the academia area. You've done bodybuilding. You're acting. You're speaking. You talk on leadership. And so, with that, what was the turning point in your life? I know you had some challenges early on. And so what was the turning point for you?
I think I'm gonna add this real quick just so people could kind of understand where we got to. So I'm gonna cut this story very short. I lost my virginity at the age of 12. I had 2 kids before I was 17. I got involved with selling crack, and then I got involved with selling marijuana when I was in high school. So I was vacillating between street life and being an athlete. And because I was an athlete, I sort of got a little bit of privileges. I quit school for a while, so I dropped out. And when I came back, I failed 2 courses. But because they wanted me to play football my senior year, they passed me on, so I had D's. But it took my GPA from a 2.5 to a 2.1. And I'm trying to get a scholarship. East Carolina's recruiting me, Fayetteville State's recruiting me, and West Virginia. But I was really intrigued by East Carolina University. I wanted to go there. And if I couldn't go to East Carolina, I wanted to go to Fayetteville State. Well, my GPA and SAT scores didn't correlate high enough for me to get a scholarship. So I'm a little depressed, and I'm trying to live a better life. I'm like, God, I'm doing things better. Why can't, everything work in my favor? And I didn't realize just because you decide to live for God, you still got to answer for the consequences. You got consequences for your actions. So I didn't get into I didn't get into East Carolina, and I didn't get into Fayetteville State, but I did get accepted to Methodist College, which is now Methodist University up in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So I went in a Division III school, and I'm a Division I recruit. I'm a start, and I didn't, and I got redshirted. And I literally used to ask God every day, man, like, allow me to die. I don't know how I'm gonna take care of my family. Nobody ever graduated from college in my immediate family. I didn't really understand what a college degree could do, but I knew I needed to go to college in order to get to the NFL because I had to play college football. So I started running with the Bloods, and one night almost shot somebody. And that's when I'm like, how did I get here, man? Who am I? Like, who is this guy that I'm portraying to be? I really want to love people, but I'm acting hard and all stoic, and this is not really who I am. So I was wearing this mask. So the only thing I could think to do, my older brother had just left to go to the military. My cousin left to go to the military. My other cousin left to go to the I I need to leave. So once I left to go into the Air Force, I fell in love with my wife. I met her. I was one of the ones you bump into basic training. We was one of them ones, and we made it. And even though I took her through hell, I ain't gonna lie, she had to sacrifice a lot to deal with me to allow me to grow. But once I met her, I found love. And once I found that love, it sort of just started opening up so many other things that I was able to see. And I started listening to people. And I went into the military with an open-minded perspective. And Sergeant LaRae Chapman and Sergeant Desmond Prosper, they're like, you need to go back to college. And they motivated me. And once I started going back to college and I started excelling in that, I started getting Airman of the Year. I started getting, I was able to get a training. I got to fly in a jet because all of these incentives. And I just started seeing the value of education. So I think falling in love with my wife really sparked everything for me to open myself up to an open-minded perspective.
Great. And I'm looking at the comments. I see one of our previous guests, Keithus Thomas, saying we're having a great conversation. Thank you, Keithus. And so you mentioned something in this story. And, I live here in Austin, Texas, originally from a little small town in Louisiana called Ville Platte. And something that I've seen in my timeline just this week is just heartbreaking, kind of relates to something you mentioned that you experienced. I saw where, this kid from my hometown, he got shot, got murdered. And then they had a shooting out here in Austin last night at a popular spot. And so, of course, young Black men. And so, what is it, as somebody that's been in that position where, you say you almost murdered someone?
You almost shot somebody, man. I think it's a combination of things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I was talking to my wife the other day, and I think a lot of young Black males, just from my experience, I grew up in a very impoverished environment when we lived in Fall River, Massachusetts, where a lot of us find ourselves self-effacing. You know, we don't want people to think we're smart. So we're trying to be the class clown. You want to be a good fighter. At that time, fighting was cool. It wasn't killing people, you know, so you want to stand out as tough, you know, and I think you're trying to find out what's your identity of manhood, chasing women, doing all these things. And I'm just going to be honest. I think some of us have been touched at a young age, or, you know, so we're trying to distance ourselves from that. I'm not gay. I'm not this. I'm not that. For me, you know, I had an experience with a family member that was male when I was younger. And it made me quit. Like, it didn't feel right, but we're trying to act out things. And I'm like, I'm not gay though. Like, so I wanted to be as hard as I could be and wanted to have as many women as possible to make sure I distance myself from that. And I realized that little boy that I'm trying to conquer no longer exists. Why am I afraid to be what it is that God want me to be? So I think a lot of us are running from something. It's identity. And then I think the environments that we grow up in, that's what we portray as being cool. When you look at the music videos, when you look at the movies that's been shown, it's all about how gangster can I be. So that's the reason why I wear gold necklaces now. I'm like, when I used to wear necklaces, it was illegal and I wanted to be like a drug dealer. But now I'm showing that you could be intelligent and you can rock this stuff, but you don't have to go down that wayward path. Why can't you be righteous and still have tattoos and a nice body and all these things? So I'm trying to really change the whole picture of what that looked like. But I think a lot of it is we're running from ourselves and we're afraid to face that little child. But a lot of us didn't grow up with fathers in the household, you know, or so it's so many different factors that come into play. From my
Yeah, that was great. I really appreciate the vulnerability to share, and you know, I gained some insight just from what you said, and I think it's super important. You know, I attend a men's mental health workshop here in Austin, and you know, some of these things that you mentioned come up, and but you really took it to a different level, and that was just fantastic, and I know it's going to bless somebody because that was just super insightful right there. You know, the things that you shared. So I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And so with, you know, you acknowledge that you changed over time. And so what did you have to start believing about yourself to get on this path to being Miss Dr. Limitless?
Honestly, and I know this may sound like a cliche, I think I love the church, but I think the church have hurt a lot of people too. Church hurt. I had to really, really understand what it means to be a disciple of Christ and what does it mean to walk in it. And for me, I felt like God was calling me to be as authentic as possible. It was something you mentioned earlier. Hold yourself accountable. There's nobody responsible for my actions. I could blame it on my environment and say this, that, or the people I hung around. No, it was me. It was something that intrigued me or enticed me to want to go out and try to act like a thug or do all of these things. So I had to look at myself in the mirror and blame nobody else. So anytime something go wrong, my default is what could I have done differently? I don't want to look at nobody else, but I'm not competing with nobody else. I'm only competing with myself. I heard Matthew McConaughey say, you should always be competing with the person that's 10 years older than you. So now that I'm 46, I'm looking at the person that's 56. So if I'm wise at 46, man, how much more wiser am I going to be at 56? So that's what I'm really competing with. And I think I had to say, as a leader, I'm the person responsible. There's nobody else that's responsible for my actions. And there's nobody else that could change me but me. So I think accountability was what really played a significant role in my life.
Now, a lot of people, they're trying to be successful without first knowing who they are. And so how important is it for us to understand who we are in terms of our own transformation?
I think it's definitely important to know who you are, but I think a lot of us got to start with who are we not? You know, there's a lot of things that I tried. You know, I tried to say, all right, I'm going to be a football player. And I was like, yo, that's who I am. But what I realized when I extrapolate lessons from that, no, I'm a person that like to entertain and inspire people. I'm not necessarily a football player. I'm a person that really want to get the most out of individuals. But then even recently, I'm a professor. But what do I really love about being a professor? Do I like doing a scholarship? No. I like to inspire the students. So I think a lot of these roles that we have is leading us to our purpose, but we can't just latch on to the first thing. Because sometimes we latch on and we stay on that thing thinking, I'm going to make it work. because this is who I am, but you haven't really figured out who are you not. So I think for what I have learned in my life is I'm not a person that really want to work in banking. My first degree was in computer. I was like, I'm gonna go into computers and do all this. Nah, those ain't the things I was doing. Why are you really looking at it? I'm looking at the money, or I'm looking at the prestige, or all of these things. So I think the more that I started exploring those things, so I think the thing that I really should say, go out and explore life, and see what really aligns with your passion. And then when you start figuring out what's aligned with your passion and your talents, I think that's when you'll find your purpose.
I 100% agree. I think the challenging thing, especially in our culture, is especially, for young people, we tend to equate talents to either athletics or entertainment. And so most young people, that's the thing that they're really looking at. And oftentimes we have other gifts, but it takes time to find them. And I know it was that way for myself. The stuff that I'm doing now, it took me a long, long time, to get on this path. I mean, literally decades to get on this path. And it happened because I was willing to do what you said, explore different things. So,
Absolutely.
Great point right there. You talk about helping people unmask their greatness. So, talk about that concept, unmasking.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at it like this, like you have a lot of people that the first thing their parents say, oh, what you want to be when you grow up? And it ain't like the kid really know what they want to be, but the parents will nudge them. Doctor, lawyer, this, engineer, like me. So the kid really grow up thinking, oh, that's what I really want to be. Maybe that is what they want to be. But a lot of times we're taught or told what to be. So what they do is they start wearing that mask. This is who I am. This is who I am. And my question I ask them is, so what happened if you can't be an engineer? What happened if you can't be a doctor? What happened if you can't be an athlete? A lot of people are just ready to give up and die. But I don't believe none of us was created for a vocation. I believe we could find our purpose and we can use that in a vocation. For example, I'm a person that just love to inspire people. I could be on an airplane, I could be on a bus. If I see something that I can share that's going to help somebody, I got to do it. That's just my curiosity of people. So how do I do it in my vocation? I do it as an author. I do it as an actor. I do it as a professor. I do it as, all of these other things I do. That's what I'm really trying to do, inspire people. So I think we get so caught up with who am I supposed to marry? I got to marry this type of man or this type of woman. But what if they don't make you happy? What if they don't light you up? Why are you still sticking to that script? Because what you're doing now is you're getting caught up in these social constructs. Social constructs limit you. But once you remove the mask and you stay curious, you're like, no, I'm just going to see what life gives me and I'm going to explore it with this curiosity. And remember, Albert Einstein said, I wasn't born with a lot of talent. I was born passionately curious. Curiosity is what allow you to thrive and grow and to really find your purpose. So I think we need to start leading people more to being open and curious instead of trying to guide them into something that we really wanted to do because we like, if I would have been an engineer or a doctor, this would have changed my life. Maybe, maybe not. Life is going to be challenging, whatever it is that you choose, how much money you have, it's still going to be challenging. So I think that's what I look at when I think about wearing a mask.
So when did it occur to you, like, I guess, to step outside the box, to start being more curious? Because, we grow up with these constructs and these belief systems and, we're conditioned a certain kind of way. And so when did the light come on? Like, man, you know what, man, maybe I need to look at, maybe going back to school and getting that master's degree, or maybe I want to compete in bodybuilding and, even though I'm in my 40s and stuff, how did you become that person?
I think I'm a juxtapose it to the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible. We get caught up listening to serpents. And a lot of times the serpents that we listen to are the people that we love unconditionally. They start telling us who we are. But what did God say? Did God tell us that's who we are? So for me, I felt like for a long time, I was trying to be a football player because I remember the first time I ran a football. We was in Head Start. And my brother was like, "You fast." Here, gave me the football. He said, "Don't let them tackle you." And they couldn't tackle me. And I remember what it felt like. Everybody, ooh, oh man, he's Walter Payton and all. I'm like, who is Walter Payton? Right? You know what I'm saying? But I was like, he must be somebody amazing. And that feeling that I felt, it made me feel alive. But I started wearing that mask of I'm an athlete. But that's not a real thing. It's all an illusion. These are all man-made constructs. So what I had to realize is these people mean well, but they're lying to me. So I had to be willing to face all of the lies and say, who am I really? Am I really a Christian? What does that mean? Am I really black? What does that mean? So I questioned everything that I was ever told that I was. And once I started peeling it away, I started figuring out who I really am. Who am I when I remove all of these masks? And many of us, we talk different around our parents. We talk different around our kids. We talk different around our spouse. And I'm like, man, this is exhausting. I'm a charlatan. I want to be real everywhere I go. If I talk like this to my students, I want to talk like this to my kids. I want to talk like this to my wife. And what I realized, the scripture said, the truth shall set you free. When you become the truth, you become like Neo in the Matrix. You just know you're the one. So I said, wherever I go, I want to be authentic and I want to be real because that's what people really want. And growing up the way we grew up, what do we say? Real, recognize real, right? So that's all I wanted to be, authentic. And that's what I started chasing. And I think that's what gave me that whole unmasking process to be, hey, just be you, be real.
So how do you deal with those people that don't embrace the real you? When they look at you and say, okay, you're a black man, for example.
How I look at it is this. I got unconditional love for everybody, but I only like people that like me. Hey, listen, if you don't like me, I'm not going to say you racist. I'm not going to say you none of that. Hey, you don't like me. I'm not going to put a label on it. We don't jive. Cool. My vibration going to move right on to somebody else. We don't vibe. Because I don't want to get caught. Like earlier today, I was talking to some guy. I'm a LeBron James fan, right? So I'm online, and this guy said something about LeBron, and then all of a sudden, I said something back to him, and he was like, "So next thing you're gonna say, I'm a racist?" And I'm like, "No, I won't think of nothing like that." I said, "But maybe you're projecting. Are you a racist? I don't know. I don't even know what that means." I said, "But you don't have power over me, so you can't be racist to me anyway." So I try not to get caught up with labels. Yes, do I believe? Now, I'm not naive. Do I know there are certain people in this system that may look at me just because of the way I look, tattoos, necklace, my skin color, and they have an opinion about me? Yes, but that's their problem. And they're the ones that miss out on love and all of those things like that. So that has nothing to do with me. So that's the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said that's their problem, because oftentimes with this this argument or this debate or whatever, people are so wrapped up in basically wanting to control the other person. And we can't control how people feel. And so we have to accept that, hey, that's how they feel. And like you said, your energy can go in another direction.
Absolutely. Because that's all we are. We're energy. And my thing, what does the Bible say? Why waste your pearls on pigs? Hey, look, I know I'm coming to you with a clean heart, and I want to give you everything that I can to make your life better. If I could play any role in it. And if you choose to reject me, that has nothing to do with me. I come here with my hands open. I mean you no harm. I just want to love on you. And if you choose not to accept that, hey, it's all good. I don't have to prove that I can fight. I don't have to prove that I'm tough. I know who I am. And at the end of the day, I'm just trying to be a child of God and live the way that I think God wants me to live.
Mm. And so I'm going to kind of pivot right here to your athletic career, your current athletic career. I know that recently you competed as a professional natural bodybuilder.
Yes.
What has bodybuilding taught you about being disciplined and being patient and transformation?
I would say this: if I would have found bodybuilding the way that I found it now, from a mental, spiritual, physical level, there's a lot of women I would have never slept with. There's a lot of things I would have never done to put my body at risk, because it taught me delayed gratification, taught me discipline. It taught me to enjoy the process, because you go into these long cuts just for no more than 5 to 10 minutes on stage, but you have to be really focused on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But you also have to be a visionary. You have to visualize what it is that you're trying to get your body to. Because every time I eat, I'm saying, am I making the right business decision? Is this about pleasure, or is this about the end goal? So I have to break everything down to small steps, one meal at a time. Like after this, I'm thinking about my next meal and how I need to, all right, I got to have the right macronutrients for this, got to have carbs here, protein here. So it really has made me disciplined. But it also, the delayed gratification aspect of it, look, when I see people eating chocolate chip cookies and ice cream and Hershey, and you think I don't want to eat it? Yes, I do. But what do I want more? I want to make sure that my body look a certain way when I get on stage. When you juxtapose that to life, you go out here and you give into all of your lustful desires. For what? What are you willing to sacrifice? Like, you're giving up so much for that. For what? So that's what bodybuilding has taught me. And then especially at this age, to be able to say, man, I didn't have abs when I played arena football or college football. You know what I'm saying? I was thick and I used to walk around with these, but this is the best my body ever looked. And I'm 46 years old. When they say your testosterone should be doing this, I don't take any TRT. I don't take any, anabolic steroids. In my federation, you can't take that. So it's, so I think that is the beauty of it, to see your body changing the things. And then when you go in the gym and, when guys be like, hey man, I see the weight. I'm like, oh, if guys give you compliments, you're like, oh, okay, I must be that guy right now. So those are the things that I learned from it. I absolutely love the sport. I love it.
So what inspired you to get into it?
So it was a guy named James that he said to me, I want to say when I was maybe 41, or he said, hey, you need to do a master show, 40 and over. I think you go in. And I was like, and I ain't never think nothing of it. And my wife and I was coming back from a cruise. I had just turned 43. And he said, hey, we got a show in 2 weeks in Louisville, Kentucky. You should do the show. He said, I think you go in. And I was like, I don't think I should do it. And then I just kept thinking about how I always challenge my students to be uncomfortable and take risks. And I was like, oh man, I guess I got to do it. So I went and did the show. And when I did the show, I really didn't like the way my body looked. But you have people on Facebook, oh, you look good, this, that. And I'm like, nah, I got to take this more serious. So I started doing more and more shows, started learning more about the nutritional aspect of it. And I didn't want to hire a coach. I didn't want nobody to show me any. I worked out with 2 bodybuilders, but I didn't want to hire anybody to show me how to pose and to work with me on my diet. I wanted to learn all of this stuff myself. And I said, once I get a pro card, I feel like this is what God is leading me to do. So that's what I did. It took me, I want to say 9 shows, and I won my pro card. And it's people that I've been knowing that's been going after that pro card for, over a decade. So I was blessed. I was fortunate that I had the best body that day that I went in for that show.
You're obviously a very resilient person with the things that you've accomplished, and even just for the simple fact that you're here today, again, the day after hip replacement surgery. And so how do you, I guess, balance that level of resilience with wisdom?
I think as I've gotten older, I'm still competitive, but I try to take that competitive energy and not make it about some type of opposition or another person, and make it about myself. And I just try to say, like, God, is this me or is this you? Like, what is going on here? What am I trying to accomplish? So I always think about, what is the purpose? How can this really inspire somebody else to go to that next level in their life? So I try to, and I try not to do anything that I think is going to hurt me or that's going to take away from too much time from my family or my wife. And I think now that my kids are all grown, it's really opening up even more and more avenues and doors for me. So, but I keep remembering what Les Brown said. He was talking about how, this guy was about to die and all of these people came to visit him in this room. And the guy was like, who are you? And they was basically saying, we're the dreams that's going to die with you that you chose never to live. And it kind of scared me because I'm like, I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking, man, I should have tried this. I'm like, no, I wanna live life, man, and just have a full life. And anything that come to my mind, if it keeps coming to my mind consistently, I gotta pursue it. So that's just where my mind is at. I gotta do what I feel like God put on my heart to pursue. And I don't feel like it's no such thing as failure in it, because as long as I'm trying, to me, that's being limitless. You know, people think limitless is you're being better than somebody else. No, it's just being better than your best and never resting on your last success. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm being the best version of me in every phase of my life: mind, body, spirit, and emotions.
You talked about competing with yourself, and one of the unfortunate things nowadays, we got social media. People are constantly comparing themselves to others, either consciously or subconsciously, and competing with others. And so what's the, I guess, the detriment of competing with others, having, saying, okay, I want to be better than Dr. Limitless, as opposed to saying, I want to be the best Mills Rogers I can be?
Yeah, I think you take your eyes off the prize. It's only one you. It's only one me. And my brother got this great thing that he's coming out with, where he's talking about it's called super sperm, but he's basically talking about everybody's a winner. There's billions of sperm, but you was the one that made it. That means that you already won. And I wrote about this in my last book called Check Your Life, Be Limitless. It's a 0.0000001 chance that your parents met and created you. So that means you're special. There's nobody any better than you. But when you start looking at other people, you no longer can see all of the talents and qualities that you have in yourself. So what you're doing is great, but I could never be Coach Mills Rogers. I could never be you, but I could be me. So it allowed me to say, nah, I'm not focusing on nobody else. I'm not trying to run their race. It's like, when you're running a sprint, as soon as you look to that right lane or that left lane, you start losing focus. But if you just go straight ahead, even if you so-called lose an event, you won because you stayed focused. And it's not about winning this race. It may be another race that you have an opportunity to win. So I only focus about my race. I lost 8 shows before I finally became a professional bodybuilder. Does it matter that I lost those 8 shows? No. I learned a lesson in every single one of those shows. I'm asking people questions. So what do you do? How's your diet here? All right, so what do you do for your triceps, your back? So I'm learning all of this information, and I took it and I compiled it together to create Dr. Limitless. So that's what it's really about.
Mm. And I like what you said. It kind of reminds me, I used to run these races, 5Ks and 10Ks. And yeah, that really, it really helped my mindset as far as just being locked into what I can do, and just improving. It's like that physical improvement carried over into other aspects of my life, and it gave me the resilience and a lot of other good qualities. And so with that, is that something that you've experienced with, some of the things that you've taken on?
Yeah, I realized that everything that I've been able to participate in has made me better for something that I'm going through. And I realized all of the conflict, all of the struggles have really enhanced who I am. Like sometimes people will say, so when I got fired from this job, well, then I got fired from another job. All that taught me is that you don't really have to rely on nobody else. And it's never as bad as you think it is. So I really believe there's lessons to be learned in every single aspect of life, but it's up to us to go out of our way to try to find those things.
Mm. And so we're getting pretty close to the end, but I want to ask you about the work that you've done at universities. And so when students enter your class, first day of the semester, they see you. What's the typical, I guess, response, or how are they looking at you? Like just tell me more about that.
So normally the first day I always come with a suit and tie, right? Show them how to dress. But I always show them my promo video. So then they see that, oh, this guy had 2 kids. This guy was a drug dealer. He was this. And what I'm really trying to do is I come into the classroom and they say, Dr. Limitless, and they may have me here. What I'm trying to do is put myself on their level, because if they look at me too far up here, they can't learn from me. But if we can look at each other on the same level, now we can share information. So I showed them that, hey, these are my humble beginnings. And all of you all have a past. Some of you may never open up and share it with me, but I want you to realize that what you see ain't always what you get, right? Or it's something more to that book. But what ended up happening, I have students that would share, hey, I'm struggling with my sexual orientation. I'm struggling with drugs. I'm struggling with this, because they see that I'm willing to be vulnerable. Then they're able to be vulnerable. And I know you were talking about leadership early. People always say, you got to earn my trust. Nah, leaders got to give first. So I'm going to give you all of my authentic self. So in turn, you give me back your authentic self, and I'm going to be vulnerable. So you'll be vulnerable back with me. I'm going to trust you. So in turn, that you would trust me. So I believe leaders always give first.
Mhm. Have you gotten any feedback from your students, just in regards to, man, I really learned a lot from you this semester, or, just that, I guess, something that somebody said to you and you're like, wow, I did that for you?
Yeah. And it's, a lot of times, so, this was my last semester teaching. I'm walking away. But, I had a lot of students, you're the best professor ever, because you don't just focus on the content. You're teaching us about life. Or I would have students that would hit me up 5 years later. Now they're married, and they're like, I remember when you said this thing, now I'm using it in my marriage. And I'm just like, wow, that's because I don't even remember what it is they're saying. I just try to allow God, kind of like Moses, to give me the words that I need to give them in that moment. I don't remember a lot of these things I'm saying. I'm just trying to, come from my heart to touch their heart, so I could really give them what they need in that given moment. So having comments from my students is the best feeling in the world. It's better than a paycheck. And that's the only thing that I'm going to miss from my academia is my interactions with the students. I absolutely love them, and the love that they give me back, that's the greatest gift ever, man.
Awesome. For the person who's listening who feels limited by their past, by their circumstances, or have inner doubt, what would you say to them?
I would say, look, you're never going to see the full picture, right? It's kind of like a puzzle. You open up puzzle, you got pieces everywhere. You got to build up the framework, then you got to start putting pieces together. And then when you finish that puzzle, you look back and say, oh, that's why that piece go here. There's a lot of things that happened in my life that while I was going through it, I'm like, man, this is terrible. I can't believe it. Why do I want to, I'm wishing death every single day. But now I have an opportunity to speak life into one of my students that were thinking about they don't want to be here. So now I'm able to share that personal experience, or I'm able to share those experiences of what it's like to give your body to somebody, and you don't really want to do that, but you falling into peer pressure, or you drinking alcohol or smoking weed, all of these different things. I'm able to now share these testimonies with these people. So when you look backwards, you're able to see how all these puzzle pieces coming together. So don't give up. You don't realize how close you are. There was times where I'm like, man, if I would have gave up here, I would have never booked this TV show. I would have never been able to write that book. I would have never been able to speak over here in China. I would have been afraid to go here if I didn't jump out of an airplane at 14,000 feet. Everything works for the good of those that love the Lord. You know what I mean? Everything is working for you. And you always got to look at it like the universe is working on my behalf. So I tell people, when something so-called bad happened, tell yourself instantly, I'm about to be blessed. Condition yourself to say, I'm about to be blessed every time you think something so-called bad happened. That's kind of how I look at it.
Fantastic. Dr. Limitless, what do you have coming up? Anything you want to share with the audience? Any projects you have? Any uh,
I would
services,
say,
products,
yeah,
anything that you want to
yeah.
share?
I would say this. I do have some big things in the work. I can't really talk about it yet because of contractual obligations. Please make sure you follow me on social media. There's going to be some big things coming out, especially in September. The doors that God is opening for me, because it's not me. Like literally, God is opening these doors. I'm just so excited to see, what God is going to do for Dr. Limitless. I'm talking about myself in third person, because sometimes I can't, I'm just, man, it's crazy what's going on. But yeah, just keep watching. I'm gonna have more podcasts come out. I'm gonna be working with some people, doing some collaborations, and I'm just gonna continue to spread the gospel the way God gave it to me.
Awesome. And folks, I really encourage you to follow him. He's very entertaining, very knowledgeable, very inspiring. Dr. Limitless. Thank you so much for coming on the Winning at Being You podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to us. I know you have a lot of other things that you can do, man. Well, I truly appreciate this. And I pray and hope that, something I said sparked something in you, or something that Coach Roger said sparked something into you. So thank y'all.
Well, there you have it, folks. Change happens one person at a time, 1 second at a time. Keep winning at being you. Let's go.